Taking care of yourself is often misunderstood as an act of selfishness, especially in societies that value constant productivity and putting others first. But this misconception needs to be challenged because self-care is not selfish, it is essential for living a healthy, balanced, and fulfilling life. Imagine trying to pour water from an empty glass. If you are completely drained, exhausted, or overwhelmed, how can you give your best to the people you care about or the responsibilities you hold? To truly be there for others, you must first be there for yourself. Self-care is not about indulgence or shirking responsibilities. It's about recharging and maintaining the capacity to fulfill your roles effectively. It involves understanding that your well-being is just as important as the well-being of those you support. People often assume that sacrificing their own needs to meet the needs of others is noble. While selflessness has its place, a consistent disregard for your health, emotions, and personal growth can lead to burnout, frustration, and even resentment. When you treat yourself with the care and attention you would offer a loved one, you create a foundation for mental clarity, emotional resilience, and physical strength. Think about how you would approach a friend or family member who is stressed or struggling. Would you dismiss their feelings or tell them to just push through it? Likely, you'd encourage them to rest, seek support, and prioritize their well-being. Yet, when it comes to ourselves, we often fail to apply the same compassion. Why is it easier to show kindness to others than to ourselves? This imbalance is something we must actively work to correct. Taking care of yourself is not a sign of weakness or indulgence. It is an act of responsibility and respect for the life you have been given. If you are constantly running on empty, the quality of your contributions to work, family, or relationships diminishes. Self-care allows you to replenish your energy, refocus your mind, and show up in your life with strength and intention. It is not about neglecting others. It is about ensuring that you have the resources, emotional, mental, and physical, to support them effectively. Furthermore, self-care is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It varies from person to person, depending on individual needs, preferences, and circumstances. For some, self-care might mean taking a quiet walk in nature, while for others, it could involve setting boundaries with people who drain their energy. It could be as simple as staying hydrated, getting enough sleep, or taking a break from social media. What matters is recognizing what nurtures your well-being and making it a non-negotiable part of your routine. In a world that often glorifies hustle and overachievement, taking time for yourself can feel counterintuitive. However, self-care is not about being unproductive, it is about sustainability. Without self-care, the constant push to do more and be more can lead to stress, anxiety, and even physical health problems. On the other hand, when you prioritize your well-being, you are better equipped to handle challenges, make sound decisions, and maintain meaningful connections with others. It's also important to recognize that self-care is not just about physical health. While eating well and exercising are essential, self-care extends to your emotional and mental well-being. Taking time to reflect, express your emotions, and seek help when needed are all acts of self-respect. Acknowledging your feelings without judgment and addressing them with care is an integral part of self-care. This may involve therapy, journaling, or simply having an honest conversation with a trusted friend. Another key aspect of self-care is learning to say no. This can be incredibly difficult, especially if you are someone who finds it hard to disappoint others. However, saying no to things that drain you or do not align with your values is not selfish, it's necessary. Every time you say no to something that compromises your well-being, you're saying yes to yourself. This does not mean avoiding all responsibilities or commitments, but rather finding a balance that allows you to honor your own needs alongside those of others. In addition, self-care is an act of self-preservation. It's about recognizing your limits and respecting them. The culture of pushing through pain, whether physical or emotional, can have devastating long-term consequences. When you neglect your well-being, it often catches up with you in the form of illness, fatigue, or emotional breakdowns. By investing in self-care, you are taking proactive steps to protect your health and prevent problems before they arise. Self-care also sends a powerful message to those around you, especially children or younger generations. When you prioritize your well-being, you set an example of self-respect and balance. You teach others that it is okay to take a break, to ask for help, and to put themselves first when necessary. This can have a ripple effect, encouraging a culture that values health and happiness over relentless striving. It's worth noting that self-care is not always easy. It requires self-awareness, discipline, and sometimes difficult choices. For example, it might mean cutting ties with toxic relationships, stepping away from environments that harm your mental health, or making time for rest even when there is pressure to keep going. These decisions can be challenging, but they are necessary for your long-term well-being. Moreover, self-care is not about perfection. It's not about having the perfect morning routine, sticking to a rigid diet, or following a trendy wellness plan. True self-care is flexible and realistic. It's about doing what works for you, even if it's not Instagram worthy. It's about listening to your body and mind and responding to their needs with kindness and patience. Some days, self-care might mean tackling a to-do list. On others, it might mean staying in bed and resting. Both are valid. Ultimately, self-care is an acknowledgement of your worth. It is a way of saying, I matter, and my well-being is important. This is not selfish, it is essential. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot be your best self if you are constantly running on fumes. By prioritizing self-care, you are not only benefiting yourself, but also enhancing your ability to contribute meaningfully to the world around you. In conclusion, self-care is not selfish, it is an act of love, responsibility, and respect for yourself. It is a commitment to your own well-being that enables you to live a more balanced, fulfilling, and impactful life. When you treat yourself with the same care and compassion that you offer to others, you create a foundation for resilience, happiness, and success. So, take the time to care for yourself, you deserve it. Compassion towards yourself is a concept that many people struggle to fully understand and embrace. In a society that often prioritizes outward success, achievement, and the demands of others, it is easy to forget that self-compassion is not only necessary, but it is the foundation for living a truly fulfilling life. In a world where people are quick to offer kindness and understanding to others, it's often a challenge to show the same kindness to oneself. Yet it is essential to acknowledge that compassion toward oneself is not a form of indulgence, laziness, or weakness, but a vital practice for both emotional and mental well-being. Many individuals have been conditioned to view self-criticism as a motivator. They believe that only by pushing themselves to the limit, constantly striving for perfection, and being tough on themselves can they achieve their goals. This mindset can lead to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and burnout. The idea that pushing oneself endlessly without acknowledging the need for rest, forgiveness, and understanding ultimately creates an unhealthy relationship with oneself. In this cycle, people often fail to recognize their inherent worth, and instead focus on what they perceive as shortcomings or failures. Being compassionate toward yourself is a practice that requires patience and self-awareness. It starts with understanding that every person has moments of struggle, and that it's okay to not always have everything together. Everyone faces challenges, makes mistakes, and encounters setbacks. Embracing these parts of life with kindness and acceptance is a powerful way to cultivate emotional resilience and strength. When you practice self-compassion, you are acknowledging your humanity and understanding that you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love, respect, and care. A major aspect of self-compassion is recognizing that, like others, you are deserving of kindness and understanding. It's easy to offer sympathy or empathy to someone you care about when they are going through a tough time. You don't berate them for making mistakes, but instead, you offer words of encouragement, patience, and support. Yet when it comes to our own challenges, we often fall into the trap of harsh self-judgment. We forget that we, too, need that same gentle approach. Practicing self-compassion means giving yourself permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to learn from them without being cruel to yourself in the process. A key part of showing compassion to yourself is learning to forgive yourself. Everyone has moments they wish they could change, things they wish they had done differently, things they regret, or actions that didn't turn out as expected. However, dwelling on these moments can keep you trapped in a cycle of guilt and self-blame, making it harder to move forward. Self-compassion is about accepting that you are human and that making mistakes is part of the growth process. Instead of criticizing yourself, you choose to learn from the experience and allow yourself the grace to do better in the future. It's important to recognize that self-compassion is not about self-pity or making excuses for bad behavior. It's not about avoiding responsibility or using self-compassion as a shield to avoid facing the consequences of your actions. Rather, it's about taking an honest look at your actions and feelings, acknowledging where you may have fallen short, and then giving yourself the understanding and encouragement to improve. Self-compassion allows you to maintain a sense of personal responsibility while also treating yourself with kindness during moments of failure or difficulty. In the journey of self-compassion, it's also necessary to let go of perfectionism. Perfectionism often leads to self-criticism because no matter how much effort you put into something, you always feel that it's not good enough. Striving for excellence is admirable, but when the goal is perfection, it sets you up for disappointment. Perfection is an unattainable standard, and constantly aiming for it creates a sense of failure when things don't turn out as expected. The truth is, perfection is a myth, and it is important to acknowledge that the pursuit of it often leads to stress, anxiety, and burnout. Self-compassion involves accepting that things don't need to be perfect to be meaningful or valuable. It's about embracing the beauty in imperfection and recognizing that mistakes and flaws are part of the human experience. An essential part of self-compassion is also practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to be present with your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Instead of criticizing yourself for feeling anxious, stressed, or upset, mindfulness teaches you to acknowledge these feelings with openness and understanding. When you are mindful, you can recognize when you are being too hard on yourself and gently guide your thoughts toward a more compassionate perspective. By becoming more aware of your inner dialogue, you can begin to change the negative patterns of self-criticism that often dominate your mind. Another important element of self-compassion is setting healthy boundaries. It's easy to become overwhelmed and frustrated when you constantly put the needs of others before your own.